So, coming back to your IAS journey, was Sai responsible for you becoming an IAS officer? Was Swami directly, indirectly involved? Of course, he's all the time guiding our lives, but how did you decide to become an IAS officer?
It's a long story. Actually, yeah, SAI is the reverse of IAS or the vice versa. Swami always used to say that,
Yeah.
SAI is IAS.
Yes.
And somehow Swami always had this, a soft corner, if I were to say,
Yeah.
those generation of IAS officers, because this is one service which directly helps people. And there is, a lot which you can do to serve humanity through this. So yes, as a student, as you said, I was in Bal Vikas. Then I also registered for Sevadal in Sivam. I worked there for some time as a Sevadal, but that was for a couple of years.
In Hyderabad?
In Hyderabad. Swami, my father was a very staunch devotee.
Okay.
He used to come here often. Sometimes during the late 80s, he was here quite frequently. That was the time when he was in the Accountant General's office in Hyderabad. So they had a very lively study circle, Aegis Office study circle. So with the team, they used to come here. So once or twice when there was a direct interaction with Swami, interview and all. So Swami, my father asked him, Swami, my son has completed his post-graduation, doing his post-graduation. He wants to, whatever. He says, maybe I was thinking of becoming a lawyer.
Okay.
So he wants to do law. Swami said, IAS chairman. So that's how Swami had said.
Clear direction.
Yes,
Ask him to do IAS.
IAS chairman. So my father came back and said, look, this is what Swami is saying. I said, okay. And Swami says we do it. But anyway, we thought, I graduated in political science and then I was in the arts side. So the option is either you become a lawyer or a journalist or a civil servant.
Yes.
These are the options which were available that time.
But otherwise, you never thought about being
At the back of my mind, perhaps it was there. Though, so, maybe otherwise you need a lot of preparation for that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So when people always ask you, why are you taking arts? I never told them that I was going to do law. Perhaps I said I'm going to take up civil service. So Swami only reflects what kind of, it's always determined. It's not as if,
When he was guiding your life.
Yeah.
At times it becomes obvious, but he was all the time there. Yeah.
Yeah, he was all the time there. That's what I tell you, because I'll tell you some more instances. So then, so he said, fine. Then I got into the civil service in 90. And then that point of time...
So first attempt you cleared?
Yeah, it was a second attempt. First attempt was I just took a trial.
Okay. Just to know how it is.
Just to know. And then that was the time I just finished my MA. And that after that I didn't write the mains also. So I had to wait and clear it. So it's as good as a first attempt, but it was technically the second attempt. Basically, my teachers and all, I've been prepared for a competitive world. So, so that's how it is. And Swami's guidance all the time.
Yes.
Because I had no problem serving anywhere in the country. But as usual, my father was kind of very worried that I might land up in some, place where perhaps not to his liking. I was always saying, no, it's okay, no problem. But he came here again.
Okay.
And then he met Swami. It's not an interview, but he was sitting in the line. Swami came and said, Swami, my son has cleared civil service. Swami said, I know. Telsu. Then I said, Swami, he might he might get some other state. No, he says, no, South ostundi.
Someone said that.
You're going to get South India. So then he came back and said, because my first option was foreign service.
Okay.
When you give that point of time, we were giving options before the exam, before the results come. So, because I was a political science and international relations student, so I had given foreign service. But since Swami had said IAS, then I had changed it later. And the pressure on me was also to change it to IAS, because now my father comes back and tells, Swami has assured you that you're going to get South. So you have to change, because that's Swami's word. So that's how I changed my option also after the results have come. These days it's not there. These days you have to give it before. That point of time you can after results come within 10 days or 15 days, you have to send a letter to Government of India saying this is my revised option. So that's how I landed up into the service, obviously with Swami's full grace and guidance.
Absolutely. He had already earmarked and destined how your
and
journey
then landing
is
up in Tamil Nadu also is perhaps predestined. Swami had said.
Yeah.
So My brother was a student here. He was sitting in the veranda. So somehow Swami said, you people have come, ask them to come.
Oh, okay.
So he said, your father has come, your brother has come, ask them to come.
Mm-hmm.
So this boy was, desperately searching where we are. So he just came out and he was waving all over. And we had one teacher here who is also from political science. Professor Gangadhar Shastri was here. So,
Oh, okay.
so he knew me because both of us had the same teacher in MPhil. I mean, his teacher also was my teacher.
Oh, okay.
So that's how I knew him. So he was somewhere there. He came and said, your brother is looking for you. Swami is calling you, come. Where are you? So we went there. So after that, it was inside the interview room. So even that is determined. You see, there's rain, there's confusion and kind of all kinds of things.
Absolutely.
So first, Swami, generally he was generally telling us, first of all, he asked me, what is happening? What is happening in your mind? Something like that. I said, Swami, nothing. I mean, he said, no. Then he said, no, you have to be, you are in the IAS means everybody is watching you. You are a Swami student.
Wow.
So you have to live up to Swami's principles. This is, not in the exact words, but in Telugu he was saying that. Andaru chustuntaru nenu, andaru gamanistuntaru, that kind of thing. So he was telling that. And then he also was telling me what is service. He says service is the main thing. Money comes and goes, morality comes and goes. These are the regular things which Swami tells me. Then he was telling about the character.
Yes.
If money is lost, nothing is lost. If character is lost, everything is lost. And then he says, you are being in the Swami's fold, you are a Balvika student, then you are here, your father is here, they are nice people. So you have to live up to Swami's expectations. So Swami is always with you. Swami is always with you. That kind of thing he was telling me. And that's the time also he said, he fixed my wedding. I mean, it's not as if...
Wow.
When he says, this is the girl you have to... Because that was inside. I mean, the smaller room you go in. That's between me and Swami. My father also had come along. So that was a life-changing thing in the sense, both in the terms of career and also wedding and all that.
Yes.
Swami said, he's determined the future course of my life, as it
Absolutely.
were. And service, IAS is what I used to call is an almighty service. It's always, it's not the Indian administrative service. If you look at that from almighty service is what. Because most of the guys, they say, I'm always safe. So that's how they work. So that is not the attitude one should have.
Yeah.
It's not the attitude of I am safe and, if it is almighty service, then the Almighty will take care of you. That's my principle in life.
Wow.
Obviously, challenges will come. I mean, it's not as if nobody has challenges in other sectors of life. After all, there are stakeholders in the system.
Yes.
And every stakeholder has some kind of right on the system.
Correct.
And the ultimate goal is serving the people. What is good to the people. And once everybody realizes that this is the guy who is doing the right thing, I don't think beyond a point nobody is going to force you to do what is not to be done. I mean, the problem is that most of us or most of people would like to be too obliging. But if it's always a right thing and you have to do it, you can convince the people. I mean, I've been in very sensitive places and I don't think nobody has asked me to do anything wrong. And there are things which you can do, which you can contribute to the society, being in this public service.
Yes.
And that is something which I like about this. And I'll tell you one or two instances. I'll tell you when I was posted as collector in Virudunagar. I was that point of time, there was these old age pensions and all used to be given. That there used to be a rule, I think all over the states, all over in Government of India also, that if there is an old person, the pension will not be given if he has a surviving child. That has been now changed. If it is old and if somebody is destitute person is left to fend for himself or herself. But suppose somewhere in the world he has a surviving child. So somebody gives a report saying that this fellow has a child and he is not eligible for an old age pension. I mean, that's a very unfair thing, but that was the rule. And that has been entirely changed now. It's not the rule anymore. But at that point of time, I went to an old age home. There's a place called Tiruchuli. It's the birthplace of Sri Ramana Maharshi. So there was a big old age home and all kinds of destitutes there. And all of them were there in the old age home. And unfortunately, about 50% of them were not getting pensions. Very paltry amount, but that also, they used to buy medicines or whatever. And the reason I found out was that this rule. So I said, let us waive this. I mean, why not? After all, they are not staying with their children. They have been abandoned. They are destitutes. They are staying in an old age home. So we sanctioned it to everybody. And subsequently, it went up to the government. Obviously, not as a kind of a positive thing, that it was kind of went up as a negative thing, saying that this guy has transgressed the rule. And somebody has pointed it out, saying the collector has given it to everybody, some audit or whatever happens that time. But fortunately for me, the person at the helm, the chief minister or somebody, took a decision saying that this is the correct thing.
Wow.
So let us change the whole entire policy. So after that, the policy was changed and said this is what he has done is correct. So after that, the entire state started getting benefit.
Wow.
Now that same policy has been taken over by Government of India also.
Fantastic.
So it's a kind of, that's a small one minor instance where you live by the principles of Swami. Say Swami will take care, let us go ahead and do this. And it has become a policy.
Wow.
So that is a minor instance, which where I thought I'll share. And there are many, kind of things where you really help. There are situations where, again, let me tell you, I'm not the one who started this. This IAS study circle was there for 25 years now. It's more than 25 years. We had a senior officer, we still have him. He is now in UK, Mr. Rangarao. He was a staunch devotee of Swami. So he, with a few other devotees, had started this. He used to come to Perthi and he started the study circle. Somehow, post 2004, 2005, I have been organizing this. And it's been pretty active. IAS Study Circle is where we meet at least once a month in one of the devotees' houses. The hosting of the study circle is done by an IAS officer, but anybody can come. So in one civil IAS, Tamilnadu IAS officer's house, it happens. So we start with bhajan, and recently we started also doing Rudram chanting. After Rudram chanting, then bhajan, and then somebody speaks. We had eminent speakers coming and speaking. And I'll tell you, Swami's presence is felt in every study circle.
Wow.
And there are so many instances. I'll come to the transformation bit. A lot of people have come.
Yes.
But in my own house, we were doing a study circle once. The day before, I had a dream saying, Swami said, I'll come to your meeting.
Oh.
So, so I told my people, my wife and all, that this is what has happened. And obviously nobody took me seriously. And we had a study circle. End of the study circle, after the Aarti, there was a whole lot of vibhuti on the photo.
Amazing.
Swami's, so that was there for everybody to see. So this is a study circle which Swami has given us approval. And once, not only in my house, once Dr. Mohan, the famous diabetologist, was speaking in our study circle. And it was in my house again. And he was generally casually mentioning about miracles. He just said, after you might have vibhuti from this photo itself. He just casually pointed to a photo and said, you might have vibhuti. And that's it. After that, the study circle ended. Then we had the Aarti. And after that, we were all having our prasad. Suddenly somebody said, the vibhuti is coming. So it's a kind of a validation of Dr. Mohan's statement, saying this is because he was mentioning some instances which had happened in Sai Kailash. We have that Uti temple. He was mentioning in that context, he said. So he said, things are coming. He was mentioning in that context, he said. So he said, things are coming. I virtually saw chocolates coming out of the photograph, and there's vibhuti. I also was a witness to such instances there. And then casually he said, Swami, for all that I know, he might start giving you vibhuti from this photo itself. So that is where, again, this vibhuti had started coming. Then again, once more, we were having one speaker, say Ramani was speaking in one of the study circles. And as he was speaking, everybody was kind of doing namaskar and all that. So he was thinking that maybe they were all doing it to him. But behind him, in the photo, it started flowing. The vibhuti started flowing. Oh. So it's a virtual live show kind of a thing. We all saw it with this thing. So this, wherever Adi with this thing. So this, wherever IAS study circle has been happening, we know that Swami's presence is, and then the flower garlands falling and all that. So that's perhaps because I said there are people Swami perhaps likes.
As Swami says,
that's
miracles.
because the service miracles as visiting cards, and it's also to kind of transform people. Like there are people who come who are not, perhaps all of them are not devotees. They might be Ramakrishna devotees. I mean, that's how they come.